Welcome back to season 10, episode 17 of the DFO Fantasy Podcast. Still just me and Beebs, no D this week. Um, well, we have D to talk about, just no Dylan D. Um, as I mentioned before the break, Roman Yossi suffered an injury on Tuesday, still waiting for an update on him. Rasmus Dahlin will miss his fourth consecutive game on Thursday. You've got guys like Jake Sanderson, who hasn't been as great lately. Brant Clark's been getting dropped in a boatload of leagues, just has not been the same player in the last month. So I'm here to help a little bit on the blue line. Beebs, you've been talking about a lot of forwards on Twitter, so we're going to let you just talk about them a little bit more here after I run through the D. Just give basically in the next 10 minutes, we're going to throw about 10 names at you, maybe more, just guys that are available on a lot of waiver wires, guys that you should be keeping an eye on. So I will start with the defenseman, and we will start at 41% owned with Lane Hutson of the Montreal Canadiens. He's been on the top power play unit since Mike Matheson got hurt. Now, Matheson only missed 2 games, but upon Matheson's return, Hutson remained on power play 1. So in those last 8 games, he has a point in 7 of those 8 games, 8 assists total, and just 13 shots on goal. Would like to see him shoot a little bit more, but 8 assists in 8 games, really, really good stuff. In the 6 games in which Matheson has been back, Hudson has averaged still 21 minutes and 46 seconds per game. So leaning on him a ton, a lot like we saw last year. Super, super talented player, and I had him as my breakout defenseman this year, maybe my sleeper defenseman, one of the two. And I said it was only a matter of time before he took over on the top power play unit. That time has come. With Matheson back in the lineup, he hasn't taken back over. So I like Hudson a lot moving forward. And I'm a little bit surprised because this is what we've been waiting for all year. And despite being there for like 2 weeks, he's still available in 49% of leagues. So, 59% of leagues, pardon
Yeah,
me.
was he not more owned out of the gate? I feel like
For sure. I think
on
he was like
draft day,
70.
it seems like
Yeah, he was like 76% owned after draft day. And
now's the time.
yeah, it makes no sense. But yeah, 41% owned right now, available in 59% of leagues. Next is Owen Power of the Buffalo Sabres, still just 35% rostered. 2 assists in 3 games with Dahlin out entering Wednesday's game against the Rangers. He's averaging an absurd 25 minutes and 48 seconds per game in those games. Also, he's obviously taken over on the top power play unit for Rasmus Dahlin. Doesn't mean much because the Sabres power play has not been very good, but Owen Power playing massive minutes. If you are somebody, especially who owned Dahlin, Power is the perfect pickup right now, still available in 65% of leagues. Moving a little bit lower, Jared Spurgeon, 20% rostered for the Minnesota Wild. He was also bumped back up to the top power play unit recently, has 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists, and 2 power play points in his last 6 games. He's averaging north of 2 shots per game and is playing 21 minutes and 44 seconds per contest. Obviously, a guy that's been there, done that in this position in the past. That's a pretty talented Minnesota top power play unit, even without Joel Eriksson. Marco Rossi's been red hot. I talked about him on the Fantasy Minute this morning. He's been great. Kaprizov, Boldy, still electric. So Spurgeon on that top power play unit, a really, really good spot there. Couple more here. Justin Falk, 20% rostered as well for the St. Louis Blues. 3 assists in 5 games since Jim Montgomery took over. He missed the first couple. Playing over 24 minutes per game in those games. Talked about it before the break. Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Jake Neighbors, all those guys really starting to play much better under Jim Montgomery. Justin Falk, bit of a sluggish season to date, but a guy that shoots the puck a ton, a guy that's been there on the top power play unit before and had really, really good success. A guy that I liked in the pre-draft process is a really nice late pickup. Now available in 80% of leagues. Justin Falk, PP1 for the St. Louis Blues. 2 more to get to. Olin Zellweger, 15% roster for the Anaheim Ducks. He really seems to have solidified himself on the Ducks' top power play unit. We haven't really, early in the season, that top power play unit, all those power play units were shuffling around a bunch. He's really solidified himself on that top unit as of late. 6 points, 27 shots on goal. That's good for 2.5 shots per game, including 2 power play points in his last 11 games. Consistently over 20 minutes a night recently, even after acquiring Jacob Trouba the other day. He was north of 20 minutes. So really like Olin Zellweger, still available in 85% of leagues. And lastly, Alex Vlasic has been on the top power play unit in Chicago since Seth Jones got hurt. He has 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists, including 4 power play points, while averaging 24 minutes and 16 seconds per game in those 11 games with Seth Jones out. And if you're in a super, super deep league, take a look at Matt Grzelcyk, a guy that we always thought might have some power play chops while he was in Boston, never really showed it, but been pretty decent for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's also been, I wouldn't necessarily call it their top power play unit, but he's on a power play unit with Sidney Crosby, and that's all that really matters. That unit consists of Rickard Rakell, Sidney Crosby, Kevin Hayes, and Chris Letang with Matt Grzelcyk. So that's like PP1A or 1B, whichever way you want to look at it, for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He has 4 assists in his last 5 games, though, 3 of which have come via the power play. One of them actually shorthanded as well. So playing 19, 20 minutes a night, not my favorite pickup, but if you're in a super deep league and there's not a whole lot of options available, I think you could probably do worse than Matt Grzelcyk on a power play unit with Sidney Crosby. So those are the defensemen that I like. Beebs, let's hear about some of the forwards that you've been touting on Twitter recently.
Absolutely. But before we do, Brock, I think we should look back at something that kind of happened in the last couple weeks. And it's someone who's 55% owned. When he came back from injury, he was 44% owned, and he hadn't played a game yet. It is Patrik Laine out in Montreal. Just wanted to quickly glaze over that. Laine has 4 points in his first 4 games. He's got 3 goals and an assist and 11 shots on goal. He's averaging 16, 19 per night, and he is basically the clear shooter on that PP1. Brock, how much do you think Patrik Laine is back, and do you think that his owners can kind of rejoice that they kept him all year, at least that 44% who was holding on to him?
Yeah, the shot volume alone is impressive. He's averaging 5 shot attempts per game right now, 11 shots in 4 games, close to 3 shots on goal per game. I mean, we know how lethal Patrik Laine can be. He's got a great shot, and I thought that he would come out of the gate a little bit sluggish. I was a little bit hesitant. Just it's been so long since we've seen him play. I don't know if maybe he's just excited to be back and is going to hit a wall here shortly. But I mean, the shot volume's there. Terrific shooter. As we know, this is a team starving for some goal scoring outside of like Cole Caulfield. So yeah, I think that line is pretty back, man. Like, I love the shot volume. I think it's really encouraging. I think that, the usage has been pretty solid. He played just 13 minutes in their last game, but prior to that, yeah, consistently 16, 17 minutes in the first 3 games. So if he's going to see, 16, 17 minutes a night out there shooting 3 or 4 times a night, he's a guy that's going to score quite a few goals. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see how many people stashed him. Obviously, leagues maybe with a few more extra IR spots. I thought he was going to come back a little bit sluggish, but yeah, this is a team, like I said, starving for goals. He's not going to be a guy that's going to get dropped down the lineup too often, I don't think. So I think he's back. I really, really am encouraged about by the early season numbers here. Would feel a little bit better if he had better line mates. Like, I don't, him, Doc, and Slafkovsky have been okay. Hasn't been great. I think if Slafkovsky looks a little bit more like the player we saw last year, that would help. Doc really never developed into the player we thought he was potentially going to be. So we'll see how that line progresses. It's been okay so far. But yeah, doing a lot of damage on the power play. All 3 goals coming via the power play, 1 even strength assist so far. So I think that's probably not super sustainable, but we know this dude can shoot. Give me 4 or 5 shots a game. I'm in on Patrik Laine again.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I'm also quite floored that he's come out this hot. But that first video of his goal, his first goal in the first game back, it just, you can hear the ping of the shot going in. It's just beautiful. Truly what we like watching hockey for. But instead of mentioning,
just really quickly,
yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
more so than anything, more so than just the fantasy hockey aspect. Just good for Patrik Laine, right?
Oh yeah.
Obviously went through some tough times last year, and it's just super good to see him back, having fun playing hockey again, scoring goals. So just happy for the human side of things as well. We focus a lot on just the goals and assists here on the fantasy show, but it's also, there's a human element to this as well. Really, really good stuff there for Laine. But Beebs, let's hear about the forwards that you're looking at on the waiver wire. You got a large list there as well.
Yeah, there's quite a few names. These are more just guys who have been hot lately, and it's going to be a lot of reoccurring names that we've heard on the show, but we love to repeat ourselves because we need some of these percentages to go up. But if you're in non-deep leagues as well, they make great spot starts. We'll start from the top and we'll roll our way down. At 38%, friend of the show, Gabe Vilardi. He had 2 points last night. He's got 5 points in his last 4 games, playing top power play and top 6 out there in Winnipeg. Big 8-1 victory yesterday. Another one that I still cannot believe he's only this high, but Kent Johnson, 32%. He had 2 more points last night. He is up to 16 points in 14 games since his return, and that's his stats on the year. He's playing power play 1, and Kent is just, he seems like the real deal. So it almost seems like an absolute shame that he's not owned in 68% of leagues, but that'll surely rise up. Next, we have my favorite, actually, someone's jumped ahead of him. It's Troy Terry out in Anaheim, currently 30% owned. Troy Terry has been on fire as of late. He has 9 points in his last 7 games played. He has learned what it's like to shoot the puck. And what happens when that happens, he has 27 shots on goal in his last 7 games. That's fantastic from Troy Terry, playing on top power play. And unfortunately, with Trevor Zegras going down, it seems like Terry might be eating a little bit more ice out there. But the name that I was about to mention was Marco Rossi. Scored again last night. Brock mentioned him earlier in the show. On absolute fire. I'm going to keep keep touting or tooting Rossi's horn while we can do it, because I can not believe that this guy's still only at 29% owned, 7 points in his last 6 games. Grab Rossi while you can. Next is the most mentioned name we've ever had on this show. It's Nick Schmaltz, and he is 25% owned still. So 75% of leagues, Schmaltz has done nothing but continue to perform on and gotten his name mentioned on yet another show. 8 points, 4 goals, 4 assists in his last 9 games. And Schmaltz, much like Troy Terry, is shooting the puck a ton. He's got 26 shots in those 9 games. We love to see that. It's one thing we've consistently asked from Schmaltz on this show. Just give us a few more shots, and he is. So we love to see it, and we're going to suggest him one more time. Jonathan Huberdeau, 23%, 2 points last night. Huberdeau kind of seems like we mentioned it earlier in the year. He got hot. We were like, is Huberdeau back? Huberdeau went away, though, and Huberdeau is back again. He's got 7 points in his last 5 games, currently occupying line 1 and power play 1 in Calgary. Wish Johnny would shoot the puck more, but we do know that he's capable of getting points in bunches, and it seems like he's fitting back in Calgary a little bit here.
I think the one thing that's most encouraging about Huberdeau too has been the ice time, right? Playing a lot more this year. He's up over 19 minutes per game in his last 8 games. Played over 20 minutes the other night. Played 25 minutes against the Blues in an overtime loss the other night as well. So yeah, if he's going to be out there playing 20 minutes, I mean, last year the whole issue with Huberdeau was like, okay, yeah, this guy's out there playing 16, 17 minutes a night. So if he's going to be north of 19, that's really, really encouraging, and it's going to continue to drive production for him.
Yeah, it takes a special player to break 100 points too, and Huberdeau's proven he has that in him. I don't think you can find that from many guys who are at 23% owned and playing on a top power play unit. And then another name that's super hot right now, and one that is clearly thriving under a new coach, is Dylan Holloway out in St. Louis. He had 2 points last night, 5 shots on goal. This is going to be a common theme when we're talking about Holloway, is his consistent shot totals as of late. He has 11 points in his last 7 games. He is currently on a 7-game point streak during that time, and he has 25 shots during that time. That's just over 3.5 shots per game. That is absolutely mind-blowing from a guy who hasn't necessarily been known to shoot the puck that often. So getting in his new coach's good books out there in St. Louis and getting in our good fantasy books while he's at it. Dylan Holloway would love to see him work his way up to the top power play, but for that to happen, someone like Jake Neighbors would have to get bumped. So I don't know if this show necessarily wants to see that.
Well, hey, and honestly, like, shout out to Jake Neighbors as well.
Right.
Really, really slow start to the season. Basically has matched his first half of his season. Just what, 7 points, I think, in his first 16 games, 8 points in his last 13. He's been a lot better recently, shooting the puck a lot. I like Neighbors, especially as I mentioned before, the break and banger leagues. But man, I mentioned Holloway last week, and he just has not stopped scoring goals. So
Yeah,
he's been great.
both of those it's insane. Both of those pickups from Edmonton are absolutely looking like huge studs, not just in regular hockey, but in fantasy here. So it's kind of cool to see out in St. Louis. And then finally, a name that is more for the deepest of deep leagues, but Chandler Stevenson out in Seattle. We've had him in previous years' shows on kind of this segment just because he gets a ton of ice. He loves to get power play 1. And he's out there. And when that happens, he produces. Always been disrespected in fantasy hockey. He had a goal last night, and he has 7 points in his last 6 games. He is currently occupying power play 1 in Seattle. Chandler Stevenson, 7% owned. So it makes a nice little own. I'm kind of I'm kind of obsessed with players who are on the power play for fantasy hockey, and that's one just crazy value that he has there. So I would like to see some more shots from Stevenson, but while he occupies that unit, he can at least give you some free assists and hopefully help out in the power play point category. But that's your quick little ads for the week. Didn't want to repeat too many names, but there's a couple more that we could have definitely got into. Brock, not sure if you have any fun guys that people should.
Well, we're talking about the Kraken here. I think that you got to mention Shane Wright, 9 points, 6 goals in his last 9 games. He's been great. Steven Ellis wrote a great piece about him the other day that, these prospect progression is not linear, and Shane Wright's obviously had a bit of a tumultuous time in the last couple of seasons. He's been called a bust a bunch, and it's nice to see him kind of bounce back and playing fairly sheltered minutes on that third line in Seattle with Bjorkstrand and Tolvanen, I believe it is. And yeah, he's been really, really solid as of late. I don't think it's overly sustainable, obviously shooting 42% during those 9 games, but at the very least, it's showcasing that he's not a total bust. And if it continues, I do think that it's going to earn him some more trust. This is a team that still needs some goal scorers and guys to put up points. So Jordan Eberle out for a while. Shane Wright could earn himself a little bit more ice time if he continues to play well, and that's going to be the real deciding factor, because right now he's around 14 minutes a night, not shooting the puck nearly enough, but a little bit more ice time. He's obviously shown he's got some offensive chops still. Any final remarks here, Beebs, before we head off for the week?
Nope. Just if anyone's ever looking for any type of, additions, or if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, or Blue Sky. And you can find us at DFO Fantasy, or you can reach any of us at either at Brock_Segan or me at Beebs Bondy. We both like to, or even at 3D Berthium. D drops his Friday articles, which one's gonna come out this week with our weekend streamers, which unfortunately we don't have for the show. And me and Brock like to drop some fantasy advice, but most of it goes through our Daily Face-Off Fantasy Podcast account as well, so you can find it there. So basically, if you need fantasy help, just find us out there and we will deliver.